the price of XRP will never be this cheap ever again. We're at this sweet spot where it's very clear that XRP is an early winner of the crypto space, but still early enough, just in the general life cycle of XRP, that almost no one has ever even heard of XRP. So there's still an opportunity for life-changing wealth. I mean, think about it. Way less than 1% of humans have ever owned XRP at any point in time, and it's already close to $3. It's already hit a new all-time high this year of $3.65. So I will not be surprised if people look back, especially years from now, and just have tremendous I think a lot of people are going to have regret that they didn't buy XRP at these lower prices. I know now you might consider it a higher price because, I mean, if you've been here a few years, most of the time you've held it, XRP's been well under $1. So you could consider it higher prices, but I just think if you let time pass, that's not always going to be the perspective. Can you imagine another 10 years from now? 10 years from now, somebody's going to look back at this moment in time in 2025 and wish that they had known what you listening to this do know about XRP. But before going further, okay, and so to give you some perspective here, there are all sorts of instances throughout history. This is like a very famous one of it can be any asset. In this case, I know we're talking about XRP cryptocurrency, but it's true in stocks too, where there are these long periods after a dramatic fall in price where it's just years and years and years of consolidation, accumulation, and then it quickly rockets and basically never looks back. Not that perfectly goes up in a straight line. I'm not making that claim. I'm just saying if you zoom out on a chart, it's going to look as though it just did nothing but go up straight. And Amazon is a perfect example here. And so here's a post from Chart Nerd, and what's on your screen right now is Amazon stock. And so he's citing a specific range from 1999 to the year 2009. And then a separate chart for XRP I'll pull up in a second. He's highlighting what's happened with XRP from 2017 up until this point. And it's very similar, frankly. In fact, here, I'll show you. I'm going to flip back and forth, but here's the XRP chart. He's noting that it's basically the same setup as what has happened with Amazon. And it can make you feel beat down for years if you're holding an asset and it's just not rocketing. But it's only not rocketing until one day it is. And then everybody's going to jump on board like, oh yeah, of course it wouldn't. Here are the reasons why. Monday, it's morning quarterbacking, that whole thing. You know, the benefit of hindsight, of course. But to us in the XRP community, it's always been obvious XRP was going to rocket. Very, very obvious because utility matters and will win the day. XRP is functionally useful. So of course the market was always going to adjust for this once XRP is competing in a level playing field and it's not being attacked by the SEC anymore. And so Chart Nerd wrote, Amazon placed an all-time high in 1999 and had to wait just under 10 years before a whopping vertical climb above $20. So folks, does that sound familiar? Because it looks like it got down to, I think, actually, you know what? I'm pulling from memory. I'm pretty sure that after the dot-com boom and then bust, I think, you can fact check me this, I could be wrong, but I think Amazon stock might have bottomed at like 91 or 92 cents. Whatever it was super low. Seen on this chart, you can see it damn near hit zero. way, way, way lower after being above $5 during the dot-com boom and bust cycle. And so, again, had to wait almost 10 years. Does that sound familiar? If you're an XRP holder, it sure as hell does. But then it moved quickly. Look at what happened after it finally broke above that, rocketing to $20. And by the way, as I record this video, the stock price for Amazon is now $225. So it didn't stop there. But, you know, if you were there during the time period, you must have felt, if you're an Amazon stockholder, like, oh, this thing's just never going to go. It must have been very emotionally hard to deal with. Same thing for XRP here, but now it is rocketing. I mean, it's gotten to new all-time highs this year. The most fun part's ahead. But anyway, then he says XRP placed an all-time high in 2017 and has had to wait 8 years to start breaking its all-time high. Yet I'm reaching with my $27 targets. Well, no, I don't think he is reaching. Now, I'm not making a price prediction myself. I admit I don't know where XRP price is going. I just have conviction like you guys that on the whole, it's going to trend higher. But I don't think he's crazy to be calling for $27 price action. There's a post on your screen. For the sake of time, I'm not going to read this, but I did several days ago when he posted this. This is from October 4th. And then so he reshared that this morning and simply wrote XRP 2017 style run loading. It's still coming. And even Cointelegraph is acknowledging as much here. Look at this headline. 3 reasons XRP's time spent under $3 could be short-lived. And of course, Cointelegraph has spent most of the last decade crapping all over XRP, writing BS articles, all sorts of nonsense. But they've been, And they must feel forced to write some things that are aligned with reality, which is to say, write positive stories about XRP, because otherwise, all you're going to do is make your entire viewer base trust you less as you continue to be wrong about XRP. Because XRP it's been trending up. It's been the number one performer out of the top 100 coins by market cap since this past November after the election. It ain't done. I will not be surprised to see XRP in double-digit price land. I will not be surprised if that happens. But anyway, this piece reads as follows, and it actually is credit where it's due. It's on the whole a pretty good piece. They did have one mistake here, which I'll highlight when we get to it. But it's not an opinion thing. It's where they literally typed a number wrong. But anyway, the piece reads as follows. After breaking above $3 on October 2nd, XRP struggled to sustain momentum, falling back to $2.84 on Tuesday. The daily close below the psychological level also marked a loss of support from the 50-period exponential moving average, EMA, signaling short-term weakness. However, several structural and on-chain indicators suggest that XRP struggle may be temporary, with catalysts lining up for a potential rebound in the coming weeks. And so I'll just note also, it's kind of fascinating to see that, because in my very last video, I highlighted perspective from like 10 different XRP chart analysts, including one who was arguing that there's very good reason to think that in the coming weeks, XRP actually will start that rally where it just melts upward, the face melting rally. And I don't know if the timing's right. He could be right, just because we're getting towards the later stages of the market cycle. But setting time aside, like, I don't really doubt it's going to happen. We'll just have to see when and how high that means XRP goes. But that coming, yeah, I don't doubt that at all. Anyway, piece continues. October could prove pivotal for XRP as the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission approaches final deadlines on 16 crypto ETF applications, including multiple spot XRP ETF filings expected between October 18th and October 25th. The regulatory environment has evolved since the SEC approved a new generic listing standards in September 2025, streamlining approvals for commodity-based exchange-traded products. Okay, and so I'll pause to note, I've covered this in detail, so I won't here, but I do want to make sure that you guys understand that. This is the reason that there aren't XRP spot ETFs live yet. They have held off on approving any individual coin spot ETF, not just XRP, because they're waiting to come up with the generic listing standards. Then they're going to make everybody adhere to those generic listing standards. This is the moment where it happens. Now, the government shut down as I'm recording this video, so the SEC won't be approving during this time period. There's about a 100% chance they will not. But these government shutdowns, they happen like roughly every 2 years, frankly. Going back the last 50 years, it's about that. And, they're typically short-lived. It could be a number of weeks. And then people get back to work in the government. And that moment when everybody's back to work, the SEC, that's when you can expect it to get approved. So we'll have to wait a little bit. So I don't know for sure if that time frame is going to be right. Let's see how long the shutdown lasts, but it's still coming. And once this takes off, folks, the days of XRP under $3, they are short-lived, at least to the peak of the market cycle. Then they say all 11 XRP ETF proposals have surpassed their listing standards deadlines, raising the possibility of simultaneous approval. If approved, analysts estimate these ETFs could attract $3 billion to $8 billion in institutional inflows, comparable to the early stages of Bitcoin and Ether ETF adoption. CoinShares data further underscored this optimism, showing XRP investment products drew $220 million in inflows last week, pushing year-to-date inflows to $1.8 billion and assets under management to $3.2 billion. And folks, as this type of money flows in, I will just note, you do get a multiplier effect. So I'm most interested in what happens for the price of XRP over a span of years and decades. I've said that many times on this channel. But in the short term, if enough flows in, it could make a material difference in the short term. So let's see how hot the thing goes. I think there's a bunch of pent-up demand for this. I think it's going to do exceedingly well. And other XRP investment vehicles that have launched recently have all had substantial and impressive launches. Cointelegraph reported that XRP's bullish to bearish sentiment ratio had dipped below 1, suggesting that negative mentions now outnumber positive ones across social platforms. Historically, such retail fear, uncertainty, and doubt, FUD, phases have preceded strong rebounds as capitulation often marks market bottoms. Now, folks, they are correct about that. I was actually talking about this in my last video, just briefly, because I believe it was on-chain analytics firm Sentiment. They're tracking that data, And they know, and they stated as much, that when the sentiment for crypto holders, and here in this case specifically XRP holders, when that's in the gutter, that's a good thing if you want the future to be bright, because that is what precedes massive, massive price action historically for XRP every single time. So it's just one more point of confluence that you can look at to give you confidence that, yes, XRP absolutely is eventually going to melt faces this market cycle, blasting up in a crazy price discovery before this thing finally peaks. And then there is a mistake here. They cite 55 million XRP right here, and I think the number is more like 455 million. So I'm just going to read this and just note that I'm just going to read it like it is. It says 55 million XRP. Just note that it is a typo, because the math doesn't add up the way they crunch the number here. And I'll show you the chart too. I'll blow this up. It's got to be something like 455 million. But here's what they wrote. Meanwhile, large holders have been taking advantage of the weakness. Over the past 3 days, whales accumulated 55 million XRP worth nearly $1.1 billion. On-chain data also showed the net holder position change has remained positive since August, indicating consistent accumulation around the $3 level. So here's a blown-up version of this. And if you look at how much XRP they're citing in recent days, it would be more like closer to that 455 million level. And that would also make the math work, depending on the price of XRP, to where it would be at least closer to $1.1 billion. So it's crypto media. They made a mistake here. Crypto media is full of a bunch of C students. I get it. But so they missed that one. But the point still holds. The rich people, the whales, have been purchasing XRP at a time where the typical lemming retail speculators are feeling down about XRP. And that is stupid. STLLPID, stupid. Doesn't make sense to be feeling down about XRP now, y'all. I'm just saying. Despite its short-term consolidation, XRP's price structure remains historically strong. The asset is currently maintaining its highest weekly and monthly closing range since surpassing its 2017 highs. Meanwhile, crypto analyst Ether National said that XRP's 7.5-year descending channel against Bitcoin was broken in late 2024, marking a significant structural shift with consistent accumulation over the past year. Folks, I highlighted this, I think, 2 days ago. And so it's nice to see that Cointelegraph is acknowledging, yeah, this is right, it's real life, and it makes sense. It's very nice to see this. Of course this makes sense. And then they write, the current pattern resembled a bullish market fractal that could yield 60% to 85% gains if XRP breaks decisively above $3.30. Trader Dentoshi observed a similar pattern, inferring that a longer consolidation or price base could lead to a bigger breakout. However, and of course, Peter Brandt. I got to tell you, Peter Brandt, this guy, famous in crypto. He got famous in crypto in late 2017 when he actually called the top of the cycle for Bitcoin close to 20 grand. He also called the bottom. In the middle of December 2018, around $3,200, he called the bottom for Bitcoin. And so he's got a large following in crypto now. He's been trading for literally like 50 years at this point. And he's actually genuinely talented. Honestly, incredible talent. Except for some strange reason, when it comes to charting XRP, he has missed every move for XRP in its history going back over a decade. He's missed every single move for XRP that matters. And in fact, along the way, he's typically been putting out some FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Looks like XRP is going to go down. He's just been wrong about, how can he be so right about everything else and then so consistently wrong about XRP? Well, the answer is, it's because he suffers from XRP derangement syndrome, the terrible affliction, and his bias seeps into his analysis. I don't know if he realizes he's doing that. I don't know if he knows that his bias is taking control of him here, but it ain't good. And I don't know how a guy this talented at charting can be this wrong consistently about XRP, but he just is, including the very last major breakout in November. I guess you could say that the July jump was like technically the last one, but as far as this cycle when XRP took off, what I'm saying is Peter Brandt missed that. How many analysts do I follow that saw it and cited why it was so obvious it was about to happen? And because they ended up being correct. I mean, just dozens and dozens of analysts I follow accurately predicted XRP is going to break out. But this highly talented analyst that's been doing this for half a century, he couldn't figure it out. But he consistently figures out what's going on with Bitcoin and other charts. Come on. So it is kind of funny. So rates, however, trader Peter Brandt noted that a daily close below $2.65 could be a defining point for XRP. This would lead to the confirmation of a descending triangle pattern. And here's the post that they were referencing right here. So we shared two images. The first one is, here, I'll just read it and you'll see it's Edwards and McGee. And then the next one I'll show you is XRP. So he says, on the left, that's the one on your screen now, is a classic descending triangle from Edwards and McGee showing what descending triangles are supposed to do. On the right is a developing descending triangle, only if it closes below $2.68, then I'll be a hater. Then it should drop to $2.22. So he's the only one that I could even find posting something negative about XRP. I mean, fine, technically, there have been a couple analysts that said, okay, maybe it's possible, but not likely that XRP could drop to some lower levels if you see the market tank. I shared a couple of those. But isn't it funny? Like, anytime he talks about XRP, it's almost exclusively this type of tone and never the stuff to the upside. Astonishing, isn't it? It's just astonishing. We know why. It's the bias. Of course, it's the bias seeping in here. And it's just kind of funny. That's all I'm saying. But, I mean, yeah, if the market falls apart, XRP is going to go with it. But it's kind of crazy to think XRP would have some sort of dramatic drop without the rest of the market going down. That would be weird for this point in the cycle. I would be quite surprised by that. Instead, it's showing tremendous strength, and I still think